Hey, trick or treat. It's Bryan and Ryan. And
Yeah, I didn't get any candy this year.
neither did I. And you didn't need any anyway. It's tooth health. We want to
That's
make sure you got tooth health. We had, I mean, for all levels of reasons, this weekend was not great. We had Halloween during COVID-19. You had time change, although you did get a whole hour of sleep. That wasn't too
yeah.
bad, but now it gets dark at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and then you got election day tomorrow, and then the riots that follow it. So other than that, it's a great time to be alive. Uh, I'm Brian Houston. That's Ryan Peterson. Welcome, Bryan and Ryan. Did you have any trick or treaters, by the way?
We did not. My girls were actually out of town. They were in Houston visiting grandparents. So, um, yeah, I got some candy for the neighbor kids, and that was about it.
Did the neighbor kids come?
I took it to them beforehand.
Oh, okay. All right. You delivered. Wow.
Yeah, and then I basically hunkered down in the back of the house after that.
So you became Uber Eats. Did you make any
Yes.
money?
No,
Oh, okay. Well,
no, I was doing it out of the goodness of my heart. So.
my heart wasn't that good. I didn't give any candy out. So I just told them to get off my lawn. Uh, and then I watched the Cowboy game and got angry all over again. Now, actually, Dallas loses last night. We record this on Monday, so we drop it on Tuesday. The Cowboys lose. What was it, 21-9? I don't even
23-9.
23-9. That's how into this game I was. I'm beyond even being angry anymore. They just stink. They're horrible. And to lose to a team that was just as bad as they are, and to watch that mess, NBC, God bless them, to even not flex out of that game and get something better on.
Well, two reasons for that. Number one, they're never going to flex the Cowboys out because
no, I'm
and
not so.
two,
I'm not so sure that's not the case the rest of the way here. I'm just.
well, but the other thing too, that look, as bad as the game was and as bad as the teams are, that game still had serious playoff implications because somebody has to make the playoffs from that division. So I think the fact that that was for first place in the division.
Wow.
It is the Cowboys. I mean, they're going to put them on there. But the funny thing, Brian, you were talking about a team just as bad as them. What has happened to Carson Wentz? I mean, he's a walking turnover. And they when they compared the stats at the end of the game, he had the same quarterback rating as DiNucci. So, I mean, it's unbelievable how bad he is.
I don't know what's happened. I mean, it's the same coaching staff. He's not had to learn a new system. He's had the same guys, running his offense all this time. But for whatever reason, he looks as lost as a rookie out there now. And he was terrible last night. He's been terrible. Honestly, he's been terrible for a couple of years now.
Yeah. He hasn't been great. He always does just enough to beat bad teams. But like 4 turnovers, no one has more turnovers than he does. And the fumbles, like he can't hang on to the football. And that was the thing that, I thought the Cowboys really blew that game. I thought the coaches, they kept trying to be cute offensively. There was a point there, I think they were within a score and they were moving the ball, just running it, and they were shorter passes. They were moving the ball. And then they went to another trick play. I'm trying to remember what the play was, a reverse or something, and it blew up, and it totally killed all the momentum. I think if the Cowboys had just run the ball and nothing cute, I think they still could have won that game. And I think that was a huge turning point that killed them in the second half.
I agree. The one thing I will say about the game, positives, Dallas's defense actually showed up and looked like they cared.
Yeah.
They're still bad, and they're just going
to –
they're just going to be bad. But at least they showed up and they acted like they cared. So they were out there with some kind of effort. Trayvon Diggs is a player. I mean, when was the last time the Cowboys had somebody intercept 2 passes in a game?
And the big thing with him is cornerbacks in today's NFL are going to get beat. He got beat for the touchdown, but then he comes right back. Like he has it doesn't affect him. And then he comes back and makes a big play. So yeah, that definitely looks like a very good pick. But I thought the defense competed, played well. But then Chris Collinsworth kept pointing out Aldon Smith has kind of become invisible. So you wonder, is it not playing in so long and getting into a grind of an NFL season, has that caught up with him? But Brian, I still think Jalen Smith just looks a step slow to me still. Like he gets beat time and again. So it is what it is. I mean, I think if they can get that kind of effort every week, they'll take it. But right now, offensively, maybe it'll get better when Dalton comes back. But they're just not good enough, and they're not going to win many games.
No, I mean, listen, I could see them going the rest of the year without winning a ball game because, again, that team last night that beat them was horrible. Okay. And they got beat. And boy, what do you think the Steelers are going to do to Dallas next weekend? Can you imagine a hot Ben Roethlisberger and that defense coming in playing Dallas? It could be. They could name their score.
Yeah, that one's that one could be rough. In the NFL, you never know, but the Steelers I think they're the league's only unbeaten right now.
Yep.
Winning in Baltimore on Sunday. Roethlisberger it's a change for him where he's kind of, it's not riding on him. They've got a really good pass rush. They can run the ball. They have good receivers. So Cowboys have a much, much tougher game next week. Hopefully Andy Dalton will be back. I do think if they would have had Dalton against the Eagles, I think they could have won that game just because maybe they wouldn't have relied on so many trick plays.
You weren't impressed with Nooch?
He must be a huge Patrick Mahomes fan because that sidearm, he was throwing that sidearm pass like just a normal everyday every play pass. But I mean, look, it's not fair to expect a ton from him. I mean, no one on earth thought he'd be starting an NFL game this year. And I think they probably should have trusted him a little bit more because, again, they got too cute. It has been interesting, though. They're giving Pollard a lot more carries and cutting down on Zeke's carries.
Good. In fact, that's a great place to go with this because it's 8 straight games now for Zeke without 100 yards.
Wow.
Even though they were running the ball last night and it looked like they had something going. When's the last time you've seen Zeke Elliott break a tackle? When's the last time you've seen him bust a run for 20-plus yards? I mean, it just doesn't happen anymore.
Sadly, the only plays I remember are the fumbles.
Well, that's all there's been to remember.
Yeah.
I heard it today, and I don't necessarily think it's a bad idea. I think the Cowboys really need to think about eating $13 million next year in the cap and just letting him go. That way they're not stuck with the contract when the extension kicks in.
Yeah.
But I think he's done. I really do. I think he's out of the only other possible excuse for the way he's playing right now is maybe it's COVID hangover. He had COVID-19 and you don't know. I mean, the people I know that have had it really took a toll on them and it took a long time to bounce back. Maybe that's what's going on, but I just don't think. I mean, he didn't have a good year last year. He certainly is having a horrible year this year to the point that I think it's probably right that Pollard should get half the carries now. And just, because Zeke he's getting paid $50 million and he's not even close to being a difference maker in the game. And he's the only guy on offense that you would think he and Amari Cooper, I mean, where's Amari Cooper? The 2 highest paid guys on offense, and neither one of them is a difference maker in a ball game anymore. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, there was a point in the second half Cooper didn't have a catch. Yeah, I don't know. It's tough. And talking about that, I guess I shouldn't be surprised because it's Jerry Jones, but on the radio this morning, Jones had acted like the Cowboys were not going to be sellers at the trade deadline. Apparently, Seattle really wanted Aldon Smith. They told them no. But Stephen Jones had said this morning that they're going to compete because they think they could still win this bad division. but I mean, even in a bad division, they're just not good enough right now. And I actually think if Washington had any real quarterback play, I think Washington's the best team in that division probably, just because I think their defense is so good. But we'll see. I mean, it very easily – the graphics NBC showed, like, it's possible, like, the division winner could have 4 wins.
Oh, my God.
It's so gross. But I don't think that will happen. I think you at least need to get to 6 wins, but who knows with this division.
Yeah, and then what difference does it make? Because you get in the playoffs, you get destroyed by whoever you play. Yeah, and we're talking about running backs. Did you see Dalvin Cook yesterday and what he did against the Packers for the Vikings?
Yeah.
That guy is a difference maker. That's what
Right.
That's what we're supposed to be seeing from Zeke Elliott.
Right.
That kind of play.
For that kind of money he's making, absolutely.
And so there's a guy who is a difference maker that led a not so great Vikings team to a good win over a really good Green Bay team. So that's what you're talking about there. Right now, who do you think's the best team in the NFC?
Well, I had thought it was Green Bay, and then they get beat at home by a very mediocre Vikings team. The Niners are down. Like the teams that I thought coming into this season, there's no one in the East. The Saints won in Chicago, but that was an ugly game. Right now, I mean, honestly, and I say this probably just because Russell Wilson is playing at such a high level, and he just finds ways. And they took it to San Francisco pretty good yesterday. Seattle probably right now, I think Russell Wilson and like a Russell Williams, Patrick Mahomes Super Bowl would be pretty special.
Yeah.
But I think Russell Williams is playing so well right now, I would give it to Seattle.
Yeah, Wilson's playing well. I mean, I think it's either the Saints or Seattle right now. I mean, I think the Saints need to pick it up and play a little better. But hey, Chicago's got a great defense. They'll make you look bad. And
right. Yeah, and that's a good point. And it was bad weather. The wind was terrible. You got to just find a way to win on the road. But I just think Russell Wilson, if all things being equal, I'm going to take who I think is the better quarterback. And right now, I think it's Russell Wilson.
Now, we are leaving out one guy out in Florida by the name of Brady.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. I don't know how I left that. And especially, maybe it would be Tampa Bay. I think right now I'd put it between Seattle and Tampa Bay. The difference with Tampa Bay is right now their defense makes big plays. They're very aggressive, and Brady seems to be getting hot. We'll see how the Antonio Brown thing goes, if that could implode on him, or is he going to be on his best behavior for Tom? If he's on his best behavior, that could make them even better. So, yeah, Tampa Bay is definitely right there.
It was a good day for my 2 favorite quarterbacks in the AFC, with Patrick Mahomes throwing for 416 yards and 5 touchdowns against a terrible Jets team. But Joe Burrow and the Bengals knocking off a really good Tennessee Titans team. And Burrow, I mean, the dude's not a rookie.
I feel like I kind of feel sorry for Burrow, because I think if it wasn't like for Patrick Mahomes, we would all be in awe talking about how good Joe Burrow is this quick. But I feel like Patrick kind of ruined it for everybody, because he was but even Patrick didn't do this as a true rookie. And you think about Burrow had no offseason, no rookie mini camps, no training camp really. I mean, very minimal, no preseason games.
No offensive line.
Didn't have a guy like Andy Reid coaching him.
Exactly.
They have a few good receivers, but I thought Burrow was going to be good, but I didn't know he was going to be this good this quick, considering he didn't get to have any of the stuff a normal rookie gets to have.
And the thing, one thing I'll add, and then we'll move on to college ball. The thing that happened yesterday is that for the first time, he was not sacked in a ball game. Right up until this point, he'd been the most sacked player, been the most hit quarterback in the league through those games. And yet he's still playing at such a high level. He's not lost his confidence. He hasn't started to get happy feet, all that other stuff that you expect when you start seeing a quarterback get beat up like that. So I was pretty excited for him, and I'm excited to see how much further that goes. At the same time, I'm pretty excited to see what looks like is going to be the end of the New England Patriots run. Very excited, actually.
Yeah, it looked like they were going to come back at the end and pull that one out, and then Cam fumbled the ball. But yeah, Patriots 2-5, and now Edelman's on IR, and their best defender Gilmore's hurt. Yeah, we everyone acted like Belichick. Brian, and the one thing, look, I'm not saying this to knock Belichick as a coach. I think he's unbelievable. Maybe he very well. I mean, I think it's hard to compare coaches in different eras, but could be the best coach of all time. But you cannot ignore the fact that they've done a terrible job in the draft in the last several years. I think Brady's brilliance covered up a lot of that. And now that he's gone, you're seeing there, because all I keep hearing was, well, he doesn't have the weapons. I'm like, well, whose fault is that? I mean, the Patriots they act like you don't need to have any wide receivers. They can win with anybody. They might have, next to the Jets, the least talented group of skill players in the league. And defensively, they had a lot of opt-outs because of COVID. And they're just not as good. And I don't know. I think they took Tom you have a quarterback for 20 years that's that good. You take things for granted. And I think Tom's probably happy with his decision, looking with where the Bucs are and where the Patriots are.
You got to know, you have to know he's behind closed doors. Tom Brady is smoking cigars and drinking whiskey and just having the best time right now watching what's happening with New England. You got to believe that's what's going on there. All right, college football. If the Big 12 wasn't already done, Oklahoma helped us out. I did exactly what Oklahoma State always does. They spit the bit and lost to a bad Texas team.
And and that was the thing. I just felt like they always do this every year. They end up having a loss. You're like, how did they lose that game? They're at home. I will say the one thing, and look, they lost the game, but Big 12 officiating to me, I just shake my head every week. And there was a bad PI call in that game, but it's not even just the officiating on the field. Replay officials, they're getting to watch these plays in slow motion, and they're still screwing it up. And I don't understand how we can be at home, how, the networks have an official up in the booth that says the call is one way, and then they completely go the opposite. I don't understand. But yeah, Big 12 done because Oklahoma State was the only shot they had. They had climbed to number 6 in the rankings, and now the Big 12 will be out of the playoff picture.
Well, it just, the only reason Texas won the football game is because they got the 100-yard kickoff return, and then they got the favor of that bad pass interference call. They're a terrible tackling football team, Texas is. And I mean, the conference is just not good. It's just not good top to bottom. You were talking about playoffs. Right now, it's very evident that Alabama, Clemson, and Ohio State are locks to get in unless the world goes upside down.
And Clemson, Clemson will have to play. Although I was impressed with their freshman quarterback coming back this past weekend against Boston College, but without Lawrence against Notre Dame, we'll see.
I don't think Notre Dame's that great. I just don't think Notre Dame's that great. I think Notre Dame is what Notre Dame always is, vastly overrated. And they'll be at home, but Clemson's talent is so ridiculous that and I'll give you $50 if you can pronounce the guy's last name.
I'm not even going to try.
Uiagalelei. You like that, huh? Pretty good, huh?
He was impressive to me, though. I mean, I'm sitting here saying a part of me was like, this could end up helping Clemson in the long run because they'll get Lawrence back, but now they're going to know what they have when Lawrence leaves. And, I mean, this kid is a freshman, and he brought them back against Boston College in a very tough game for them, and he looked really good. But talking about the playoff now, we were talking before, really everyone's playing for one playoff spot. And the Aggies, Joel Klatt had brought this up that they could be a dark horse after A&M won again this past weekend. They could be a dark horse because their schedule is on the softer side. I think their toughest game is at Auburn.
Let me run it off for you. Next week they're at South Carolina. That won't be easy, but South Carolina's not great. They're at Tennessee. Who knows what's going to show up there? Ole Miss could give them some issues just because their offense is so explosive. LSU, forget it. They could kill LSU in Baton Rouge. And then they do go to Auburn. And I do believe that Auburn could be a problem for them on the road, especially
Absolutely.
their defense. Auburn's defense is legit.
But if A&M, because traditionally, someone had showed the numbers, it was interesting graphic. Jimbo has actually won the games against the unranked team since he's gotten to A&M. It's been against the bigger fish that he hasn't. So right now they don't have any of those until if they. And again, I don't know. I don't think they're consistent enough that I think they'll run the table to get to Auburn. But it's possible if they found something. If Mon can play consistent like he has the last couple of weeks, that maybe they could be one loss, with that only loss being to Bama going into Auburn, and that could be to possibly get them in the playoff picture. So it'll be interesting to see. But in the SEC, you never know. There's no easy games, but I just think that A&M can go into those games thinking that we can win.
I mean, the hardest thing for A&M is they're not going to be able to get into the SEC championship game unless Alabama stumbles.
But if your only loss is to Bama, we've seen in the past that can be okay. It can maybe even help you because you're not going to lose the championship game.
If you don't get destroyed by Bama, and they got destroyed by Bama, so that shows they're not even in the same neighborhood with Alabama right now. I just don't trust Mond. I think at some point Mond's going to become Mond again, and they'll spit it up. But that may be Aggie bias on my basis, too. I'm not going to lie. But I've just seen it too many years. I've watched it for so many years. They've stayed mediocre in the SEC ever since they joined the conference. They win the games against the teams that they're supposed to beat, and then they can't beat the great teams, the good teams. So we'll see. The two takeaways from the weekend: Jim Harbaugh is the most overrated coach in college football. Michigan loses to a very, very mediocre Michigan State team. Man, I don't know how this guy, $8 million he's getting paid, and they win 9 games a year. I just don't see what people see in him anymore. I think the game has passed him by.
Well, and then, you look at, at Michigan, they pay you for basically, a couple games to beat Ohio State, which he hasn't done, and to beat your in-state rival, Michigan State. And he's only beaten Michigan State once, I believe. So he's got one win in all of his time there between those two programs. And really, the thing was Michigan, it looked like they actually had a good quarterback, and yet they still lay an egg. And you want to talk – this is not the Michigan State program that we've seen in the past. They are down. Mel Tucker taking over, kind of trying to rebuild. This was a game that I thought Michigan would win handily, and to lose like they did, I don't know what else to say anymore. Every year there's excuses, and somebody from Pro Football Focus had pointed out that he thinks that he was even overrated in the NFL, because if you look at when Harbaugh was in his heyday with the Niners, his defensive coordinator was Vic Fangio, and his offensive coordinator was what's his name with the Ravens right now? The innovative offensive coordinator. I can't remember his name right now. That's really turned Lamar Jackson into a star. And his point being, Harbaugh, when he was really successful in the NFL, had two of the best minds, assistant coaches wise, that were actually doing most of the work. And he wasn't some kind of quarterback whisperer. And he has failed miserably. Now, he did do well at Stanford, but it has not worked out well in Michigan.
The game's just changed. Greg Roman's the guy that you're looking for.
Greg Roman, yes.
That's the Ravens OC right now. The other thing, I will just say that we have an election tomorrow. Could I get something added to the ballot that just says, can we just vote the Dallas Cowboys and LSU Tigers? Can we just end their seasons now? Okay, because I can't take any more of this on Saturday and Sunday. Just complete.
Yeah, that is a brutal. That's a brutal weekend.
Just complete beat downs. I'm wave the white flag. It's over. Fire Bo Pelini, please, and let's.
I'm sure Texans fans would probably like the same thing.
We can add them to that. Yeah, in fact, we could do drive-through voting just like they did over the weekend, and do it all night long, and maybe get all these seasons canceled and put everybody out of their misery, because boy, it's been miserable. Last thing, Pac-12 starts playing football this weekend. You excited about a 9 a.m. West Coast kickoff between Arizona State and USC?
Absolutely not. And honestly, Brian, like it's so late in the game now. Like I don't even care. Like my thing is, I'm not going to take any of them seriously, anyways. And we've already seen the headaches that are going. I mean, in Wisconsin, in the Big Ten, they started late.
And that could have been a playoff team.
Yeah, and I mean, and now they had 22 people test positive, 12 players. So yeah, I don't really care about the Pac. The only thing I've missed about not having Pac-12 is sometimes at 11 o'clock at night, you'd have a game you could watch on the West Coast because, the games, they have the night games out there. But I don't think it's going to matter. I don't think there's anyone in the Pac-12 that's going to be any real threat. So we'll see.
And one last note, we talked a few minutes ago about sure things in the college football playoffs. But you realize, of course, in 2020, all that goes up in smoke if Justin Field gets COVID, if Mac Jones gets COVID. We've already Trevor's already out for last week, and he won't play against Notre Dame. I mean, that's pretty scary. That still, even as good as all these teams are, you get a rash like that happening, and all of a sudden, this thing just goes up in smoke.
Yeah.
And I'm praying that doesn't happen. But just like you said, with what they've done in the Big Ten, they set themselves up with no wiggle room and the 3 weeks holding people out. So they're taking teams out of the playoff picture by their rules.
Right. And it's not even like Wisconsin. It's not even you get to play. You're playing the game shorthanded. You're not playing, period.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I still don't think they've ever made any distinction in terms of the college football playoff about a minimum number of games you have to play. Because, if you're at the end of the year and Ohio State, let's say something happened where they had a bunch of positive tests. Let's say Ohio State's only played 5 games.
They're not
going to 5-0. Right. Are they not going to let them in because it's not enough of body of work?
The only way they would let them in is if they beat Ohio State. Then they might even get some consideration. But beyond that, they're not going to get in. I mean, you can't let a team that's only played 5 games for whatever reason. You can't let a team do that when another team has played their full complement of 10. It's just,
yeah, double what they played.
It's just not right, So this year, I'm so ready for this year to be over. I've enjoyed having football. Thank God we've got football. But boy, the football for the teams that I care about has been so diseased that I'm kind of now wishing I could go back and just binge watch The Crown.
Right.
All right, man. Trick or treat, trick or trout, whatever you want to call it, and happy Election Day. Lock your doors after the vote is in because we'll probably see rioting in the streets. And we'll talk again soon.
All right, brother. Thank you.
Hey, listen, be sure and listen. We drop on Tuesday mornings. If you like it, watch it on YouTube, leave comments, share with your friends. Thanks to the 14 of you who watch. We really appreciate that. And we will talk to you next week. See ya.